Can't even believe. Good morning, Amanda. Thanks for calling in. What's going on? We're talking about the Yakima Health District and Yakima Health District meeting that you had recently. Tell us all about it. What's going on?
Yeah, well, the health district is going to be having another meeting coming up here next Wednesday. We're also going to be interviewing the three candidates who remain as candidates for health officer. But, I wanted to call in today because I wanted to draw attention to, I think, unfortunately, another really grave error by the governor that I'm hoping that as a state we're going to be able to rally and quickly change, and that is our guidelines for summer camps for our kids.
Sure.
And, I've been very much a fierce advocate of trying to have some common sense in masking for our children, which quite frankly means, they're scientifically, we know it is proven that, thank the Lord, that COVID does not impact our children in the same manner of efficacy in children as it does in adults. They do not have the symptoms like adults have. They don't get hospitalized at nearly the same rate, and thankfully do not experience that terrible death that elderly people have had when they've contracted COVID. And we should celebrate that. And unfortunately, we are making decisions surrounding our children based only on fear and not the science and data. And I've been talking with our health officer, trying to get him to speak up for what is right and at least say that he doesn't agree with the guidelines because they don't follow science. So what I'm going to share with you is that the CDC just updated summer camp guidance yesterday, and they acknowledged that forcing children to wear masks while outdoors didn't make sense. Even, vaccinated or unvaccinated, it didn't make sense. And so the CDC guidelines for camps encourage distancing and cohorting, and although recommends people consider wearing masks, it's not requiring children to wear masks outdoors. But you know what? Governor Inslee knows better. He's got some other science that proves that we, for some reason, in Washington State, need to force our children to wear masks outside during camp. And so we are having campers, little campers. My son is supposed to go to camp, and he's 8 years old. And in Washington State, you have to quarantine before you go to camp for 5 days if it's overnight camp. You have to get a negative COVID test. And then when you get there, you still have to wear a mask at all times with the exception of swimming, showering, eating, or brushing your teeth, which is funny because no child brushes their teeth at camp. And then you still have to maintain 6 feet or more social distance. Doesn't that sound like a fun camp?
Wow.
I mean, I can't imagine how, and it's going to be, we all know what our mountains are like. I mean, of course, today it's a cooler day. But there is no science and data that shows that we need to have people wearing masks when outdoors. These kids in the heat. In fact, I will tell you that even the Journal of American Medicine, their pediatric editor, came out and called requiring mask usage in kids outdoors in the heat draconian. And yet here we go. And I will tell you, Washington is the exception. Even New York and Massachusetts rejected the guidelines and said, no, we are not going to require our children to wear masks during camps this summer outside, day camps and overnight camps. So if New York and Massachusetts can get it figured out, I feel I have hope. So what I would like to ask is that anyone who has a child or has a neighbor who knows that they have a child, make sure that parents are aware of the guidelines that are going to be enforced at their summer camp. Don't kill the messenger. These folks are doing what they were told to do. Yeah. But it's important that we all very calmly, rationally, and logically send an email. Make sure you go on record with a phone call or an email to that camp and reach out to the Department of Health, our local health officer, and send the governor a message saying there is no science that supports forcing children to wear masks while outdoors, especially in the heat of summer. It doesn't make sense. And other states have figured out it's not necessary. The CDC says it is not necessary. And I will tell you, unfortunately, the motivation for Governor Inslee, as stated by him over and over again, is that all of these guidelines and restrictions should serve as incentives to go get vaccinated. And I absolutely do not support restricting and putting people, honestly, this is the health of our children that you're, I believe, putting in jeopardy by forcing them to go outside in the heat of summer wearing a mask. It's horrific.
And our interim health officer, he's not going to go against the governor, right? I mean, that's just,
he will not.
Yeah.
He says he does not have the ability. And I said, with all due respect, it's your obligation as a medical doctor who's providing advice. And I said, if you are not going to provide any different guidance, then you need to explain to me and the public what science you are basing your decision on. Why are you supporting these? What, simply because you have to? You have to, if you think that you're under some kind of legal obligation, I understand that. But you can speak out against it. You can be one of the voices of reason that says, hey, Governor Inslee, this guideline doesn't follow the science. It doesn't even follow what the CDC has said at this point.
Amanda, do you know the CDC? Does it say? Is it the guidelines for camps? Do the kids need to be fully vaccinated before they can have their masks off?
The new CDC guidelines state that vaccinated staff and children do not have to wear masks.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm. But in Washington, you still have to.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to wear a mask. This is the thing. So we've all known about the best practices, right? This is the layering. It's not you quarantine and you're negative and that's it. No, you have to quarantine and you're negative and you have to wear a mask and social distance the whole time.
All right, now I've got them in front of me here. Yeah, they say this CDC guidance is meant to supplement, not replace any federal, state, local, territorial, or tribal health and safety laws, rules, and regulations with which camps must comply. Yeah, and it says, for camps where everyone is fully vaccinated prior to the start of camp, it is safe to return to full capacity without masking and without physical distancing in accordance with CDC's interim public health recommendations for fully vaccinated people, except where required by federal, state, local, tribal rules and regulations. So, so it's clear. The guidance is pretty clear. Don't need it. Although people who are fully vaccinated do not need, they say, even though, they don't need to wear a mask if you're vaccinated, camp programs should be supportive of campers and staff who choose to wear a mask. So, all right.
Hey, we all are. That's the whole point, and I have said this over and over again.
Right.
I am supportive of everyone who wants to take whatever protective measures they feel are best for them and their families. That means getting vaccinated. That means social distancing. That means wearing a mask. If those are the choices that you believe are best for you, you have my 100, I'm behind you. I am fighting hard to make sure that everyone gets to choose what's right for themselves. And the idea that I certainly do not want my son going to camp having to wear a mask it's just ridiculous. You
Amanda,
just can't tell.
Amanda McKinney, do you believe that you are representing a majority of people in this county?
I do.
With that,
yep.
Yeah, good.
I do. I think most of us are looking around, for the few voices who have been absolutely adamant that children must wear it. It's not based in science. It's not based in the facts. It's fear-driven, and what the response from Dr. Yuka is that, we just have to continue to have children wear masks until they can all get vaccinated. That's the response. And you're saying that people have to restrict their lives under condition predicated on them going and doing something that is voluntary when it comes, if it comes, by the time they get to the point where they say the vaccine is safe for even young children. So, and what if a parent, so are we again saying that if you choose not to get a vaccine that you will continue to have to wear a mask, and does that include children? Are we going to, you have to take these things to their logical conclusion. Where are we headed with this? It's either we go to personal choice because everyone who's had the opportunity to receive the vaccine has taken that opportunity, and everyone else who hasn't can still choose in the future to do so, but it's a choice. So we have to go back to the choice. It's always been about the choice. It's always been about driving to get to that glorious day where we have, like we do right now, massive amounts of vaccine sitting on ice, ready to go at a moment's notice for anyone who's decided that they want to have it. It's a blessing. Fantastic. But as soon as that choice is readily available, we must go back to our restoration of personal freedoms, because it's about taking responsibility for personal health.
Yeah, my daughter had COVID. I have no interest in her getting a vaccination at this point. I mean, when I got the COVID shots, it knocked me on my butt twice. Same with my wife. I don't see the need to put my daughter through that. So, what? She's forever on the outside then, even though she's had COVID. She's got COVID antibodies.
Yeah, well, and that brings up a great point, Dave, and which, and I'm sorry that you had those experiences. And what I will say is that, again, I have never said anything negative about the vaccine, because I think it's a personal choice. I want people to do their own research and make a decision for yourself. That's the beauty of it. But what I will say is that the point that you bring up is one that I have said. None of the guidance across the nation has considered the millions of people who have had COVID and have natural immunity. And the CDC's own statistics still state that for every single American who tested positive for COVID, 4.6 more Americans had COVID and were either asymptomatic or never went and got tested and fully recovered, obviously, right? So, the impact of this virus, it's actually far more vast than what the numbers even show as far as who had the virus.
Right.
But it also means that our hospitalization rates and death rates for this virus are also much lower. And I mentioned in the health board meeting when I moved to remove masks from kids, we all know and acknowledge that the children, as I said earlier at the start, are not impacted at the same way, in the same level, thankfully, as adults by COVID. And yet we're going back and looking at the data now, and even the California hospital system looked back at their data and were able to determine that 43% of the hospitalizations of children 18 and under for COVID last year were because they were there with COVID, not because of COVID. Meaning they went there because Tommy broke his arm. We got to test you because it's policy. Oh, by the way, you have COVID. Moving on. Here's your cast. Good to go. Good job, Tommy. So we thankfully are going to find out that, again, it's even less impactful on our children. And I think that, again, we should embrace that's a blessing. But no, we're going to force our kids to even go through this summer and wear masks. In Washington State, you got to wear a mask if you're a child, even when you're enjoying the great outdoors.
Ridiculous. Amanda, thanks. We appreciate your update. And
I've got one more thing.
Okay, drop it on us.
There's one more thing that I've said this, again, it's community involvement. The segregation. It's offering, entrance or tickets to attend certain events based off of vaccinated or unvaccinated.
Mm-hmm. We're seeing that with graduation, ceremonies. Some graduations, yeah. Well,
so here's again, this is guidance. This is by design. This comes from our governor because he wants to segregate people and force them to be uncomfortable and force people to make a decision that he wants them to make. Okay, it's very clear. I'm not supportive of that. Honestly, I think it's mind-boggling to me that here we are, one of his top priorities in the state is to provide a way for Washington State to overcome discrimination and racism and social inequities, and yet he is going right there and saying, no, we're going to actually segregate people based off a status, a vaccination status here. Yeah. And what I would say is that, again, don't kill the messenger. There are a lot of places out there who, again, if you're going to be taking money for something and you have the opportunity to, you can have people attend your event without marking vaccinated or unvaccinated. But if you're indoors, you're limited to 50% capacity, right? So, of course, you're trying to make money. What are you going to do? Well, if I make a vaccinated section, that gets to be 100%, and then the unvaccinated gets to be 50%. So that becomes, it's a financial issue, right? Well, again, power of the purse. Don't kill the messenger. We have to understand these folks are, in the case of businesses or organizations that are earning money, they're trying to earn enough money, and God knows they've been, just obliterated because of all the COVID restrictions lately. We want to support them. But at the same time, if you want to go to an event and you see that they're segregating, say something about it.
Right on.
Be kind, be gentle.
Yeah.
Say, listen, I respect you. I want to support you. I know that you're doing what you think you need to do to make a buck. But I want you to know that I don't like this, and I will not come if that's your choice.
Right on.
I will not attend.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, one of the places that was brought to my attention was the K-9 football team down at the Sundome. And I said, whoa, that's a county property. What's going on here? And, we do lease that out to the fairgrounds. So, the commissioners do not have control over that. But let them know, hey, don't encourage the segregation. At the end of the day, and I'm not trying to pile on, the K-9s or anyone else. Again, they're trying to open. God bless them. They've been practicing. They want to share the excitement of having people back in the stadium. Everybody's doing what they need to survive, and I fully supporting them. But say, hey, by the way, we don't agree with this segregation. We don't like this. Because if people don't voice their concerns, then people are going to assume, well, hey, then people don't think it's a big deal. And if tolerance, is going to set a precedent for the future.
Right on.
That's the problem.